Hey, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Lewis, and today we're going to be talking about PRL's brand new flex fuel sensor with Wi-Fi. And the benefit to that is just going to be that you don't need a Ktuner or Hondata to, or at least you don't need to rely on it to tell you the ethanol percentages in your fuel. So it's really quick. You can do it straight from your phone, straight from your Wi-Fi settings. Actually, there's a way to set it up to where the name is actually your your ethanol content, which is really cool. So we're gonna go ahead and talk about that and the benefits of running flex fuel and why it was one of the first mods that I did. It was actually the very first mod I did to my car. So yeah, before we get into that, I just want to show you this. And this is PRL's new duct for their high volume intake, and it goes to the bottom. And this is gonna pretty much make it a true cold air intake. Now, this is not gonna come with your intake. This is gonna be a separate piece that you order, and that really just gives you, the modularity to do what you want with your intake. So if you don't want this, you don't have to get it. It's not forced upon you. And if you do want it, pay, I think it's gonna be 50 bucks. And yeah, you just have to take a hole saw to your intake and install it, which is really easy. So don't freak out. I'm gonna do a video on this later. And if you wanna see that, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. So let's get into ethanol. Now, the ethanol sensor was actually the first thing that I did to my car when I bought it. I believe that flex fuel is one of the best mods that you can make for your car. It's the best bang for your buck. It's not overwhelmingly expensive for how much horsepower you're gonna get out of it. So yeah, I highly recommend that if you don't do anything else to your car, get a flex fuel sensor if you have E85 near you, and you're gonna have a blast with your car. So what is E85 for those of you that don't know? And if you do know what E85 is, I apologize if this is redundant, but for those of you that don't know, E85 is just 85% ethanol and 15% gasoline, and then 93, which is what I run my car, or 91, etc., whatever you have in your state or whatever you run in your car, is gonna be 93 octane. So that number is just the octane level. E85 goes by the ethanol percentage. And one of the great benefits about mixing E85 in your regular fuel is that it's gonna raise your octane. So if you have 93 and you start putting E85, it's gonna gradually increase your octane, which is gonna give you more power. And that's pretty much all I know as far as specifics on tuning. So I don't know much about that. Consult your tuner about how much E85 you should run in your car for you to get the maximum amount of benefit, because at a certain level, there is no more benefit. Most people see the greatest benefit around E30, E40 range max. There are additional benefits when you do run E85, and one of those being is that your car does run cooler. And this cooling benefit is gonna require you to gap your plugs differently. So when your car runs colder, typically people run two-step colder plugs, and that just means you have to gap your spark plugs differently. So I went ahead and asked Axion what he runs, because I know he runs a decent amount of ethanol in his car, and he gapped his down to 0.022, and I guess that seems to be working for a majority of people that run flex fuel across really all platforms. I know my Supra came with the plugs gapped, I think, at 0.022 as well. So I run E40 on that car, and I have no problems at all. I've also had people run too much ethanol without gapping their plugs, and their car just went into limp mode. They did not like it. They actually had to buy new plugs, gap them down to the appropriate size, so that way their car could run again. Anyways, it's just a little extra piece of maintenance that you have to do to your car if you want to run more than, I'd probably say, E30, E40. Around that area, you should probably start gapping your plugs. Now, E85 is, again, going to be 85% ethanol, 15% gasoline. And I have this little tester here that I bought. And I went to the gas station to make sure that it was actually E85. And all you have to do is just fill up this blue line with some water, and then fill the rest of it up with your fuel that you're gonna be using. So if you're putting E85 on here, it'll tell you how much ethanol content is. So as you can see, this is pretty spot on to E85. I was actually surprised at how well that fuel did. Now, how does that work? Well, this is gonna bring me to one of my cons about E85. E85 is actually hygroscopic, which means it can easily absorb water. That's why you put the water in there. And the gasoline does not absorb the water, that's why it separates. So that's how it's able to tell you your E85 content, in case you didn't know how that worked. And that little bottle is gonna be linked down in the description box below if you wanna buy it yourself and test your E85 station, because not all E85 stations have straight E85. I think the lowest they can run is E51. I've seen the range on their pump. They say, it says E85, but it says may contain between E51 and E85. So again, not all are created equal. I've actually put really bad E85 in my car before and it did not run really good. So I stopped going to that gas station and now I just strictly go to Kroger for good E85 if I want to. And that's one of the benefits of the flex fuel system. If you're not close to an E85 station, you can just put regular pump gas and then just keep driving. You don't have to reflash your car every time you go with a different fuel. It's really just makes life easier. And it's probably one of the easier mods to do to your car, especially since this new one actually uses your stock fuel line, where the previous one, if you have the previous PRL flex fuel kit, you would know that you actually did not retain your OEM fuel line. And if you're curious if the OEM fuel line is rated to run E85, yes it is. Your OEM fuel line will be perfectly fine running ethanol. It's not gonna degrade over time. Modern cars nowadays can usually run ethanol just fine without degrading the interior of the fuel line. So don't worry about it. So with that being said, I apologize if I talk too much. Let's go ahead and get to the install. If you have any questions at all, be sure to leave it down in the comment section below. I try to be good about responding to as many as I can. Sometimes it's a lot, so I apologize if I don't get to yours, but I will in time. And yeah, be sure to follow me on Instagram so you can be up to date on my builds. I usually post what I'm gonna do to the car there before I actually do it on YouTube. So yeah, I'll see you guys over there and let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so before you begin to actually work on the car, it's always advised that you disconnect the battery, and all you have to do is just remove the negative terminal. And I put a microfiber towel in between the terminal and the battery, so that way there's no accident that it'll somehow make it back onto the terminal. And yeah, it's just smart. You're working with fuel and you don't want anything to catch on fire or, you know, potentially damage your car in any way. It's always smart to do that when you're unplugging stuff, because you are gonna have to unplug a few things and plug them back up. So we're gonna need just a couple of simple tools. I'm using this nice ratchet. I don't know if you guys like these kinds of tools. Should I do like a review on the tools that I use? I don't know, I really like it. So I'm gonna use this ratchet and a 10mm socket. I'm also gonna be using this tiny little flathead, if you can see, and this is to undo the clips, and a tiny Allen key wrench whenever we're putting stuff together on the actual flex fuel sensor itself. So you don't need a lot of tools, and if I use another tool on, maybe if I forgot something, obviously I'm gonna show you everything I do. So don't worry if you think you need any special tools, you don't. One thing about the battery, when you disconnect it and you connect it back up, everything is gonna start initializing all over again. And you're gonna get every light on your dash going off. It's gonna say system initializing, brake system issue, all this crazy stuff. And I've had people freak out in the past about that. So if you disconnect the battery, you reconnect it, and you have every light in the world, do not freak out. Your car just is trying to reinitialize since it lost the battery. And it'll go away, you just drive around a little bit, it'll initialize, turn the car on and off a few times, and I think it took me 3 tries for the lights to all go back, and my car went right back to normal. There's no issues, so keep that in mind. Also, once you disconnect the fuel line and you reconnect it, you wanna make sure that you turn the car on and off, let me step back. Make sure you turn the battery on and off a couple of times so the fuel pump can prime the line and you can build pressure in your lines again, because when you disconnect the line, it is gonna squirt fuel at you, So you should use gloves and you should use some eye protection just in case, and some rags to collect all the fuel because you don't want all the fuel going all over the engine bay. That's just a safety thing. And yeah, so I turned the car on and off about 10 times. I did one time turn the car on immediately after installing everything and not doing what I just told you, and the RPM started going all over the place. So I don't recommend you immediately trying to turn on the engine. Just cycle the battery a couple times. It'll make the fuel pump build pressure in your line and you should be fine. Everything should start pretty normally. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. And let's go ahead and get started. First thing we're gonna wanna do, again, disconnect the battery. Second thing we're gonna wanna do is we're gonna remove this cover right here. It's just 2 10mm nuts and then 1 10mm bolt at the bottom, and that'll take the cover off of this. That's, I'm assuming it's there to protect the fuel line. I don't really know what the purpose of this thing is, but yeah, we're gonna go ahead and remove that. So I have my 10mm, I have a short one and a long one to reach the bottom end. You could always use an extension if you don't have a longer one. But yeah, so let's go ahead and remove that and then we can expose the fuel line. Okay, now that the cover is off, we can go ahead and take a look at what we need to remove from the stock fuel line. It's really on this side. It's going to be 2 clips that hold the fuel line into place, this little retainer, and then we can just remove the fuel line from the soft line, from the hard line, and that's it. So be aware, you might want to wear gloves for this and get yourself a rag, because as soon as you disconnect that fuel line, more than likely it's gonna still be under pressure, so it's gonna come spewing out, and it's quite a bit. You don't want that falling all over your engine bay. It's just a hazard. Also, you probably don't want that all over your skin, so again, wear gloves. And yeah, mine's not gonna do it because I already removed this one time. I just put it back together so I could do a video for you guys. So just because mine doesn't do it doesn't mean that yours is not gonna do it. Just wanted to throw that out there. So let's go ahead and remove those parts. Okay, so for those plastic clips, you're gonna want to have a small flathead just like this, because we're gonna push from underneath those clips to release the fuel line. Okay, so go ahead, take your flathead, and then you're gonna press up, and then it releases it. And then you're gonna do the same thing for this one right over here. There you go. Okay, so for this retainer, all you gotta do is just pop it out like that, and then it comes out. Just like that. Okay, now we can go ahead and remove this side of the fuel line, and all you gotta do is just push in these green tabs, and the fuel line comes out just like that. Now, you are gonna want to take this green tab off. Be careful not to drop it, and then just put it right back into this line. Unlike previous flex fuel kits, you would have needed to remove the whole fuel line and you wouldn't have used your stock fuel line, but we're gonna be using the stock fuel line. So just removing it from this end is perfectly okay. You don't have to worry about the end that connects to the high pressure fuel pump. So just leave it, tuck it away for now. Okay, next is going to be this bracket right here. We're going to remove this. There's some pieces on this bracket that we're going to use, and it's gonna be this black tab thing, the holder, and then it's gonna be 2 rubber grommets and some inserts that we're gonna be using. So go ahead, take your 10mm out, and it's gonna be 2 bolts that are holding that in. Okay, that's one. And that's 2. Okay, so now we took this bracket off, and what we're gonna need from this bracket is gonna be these little spacers and grommets, just go ahead and remove them. And then we're also going to need this clip right here. So it's just 2 push tabs, and you could use pliers or you could use your fingers. I can use it with my fingers, and it pops out just like that. So now set that off to the side, store it away in case you want to go back to stock one day. And yeah, now we're gonna transfer everything over to this one. So this is the PRL supply bracket. They include these 2 bolts, and we're gonna go ahead and take these rubber grommets and put them right here. And then go ahead, put the spacers behind it. And that's all for this. Now we are gonna be installing this first before this, but I'll go ahead and finish showing you how to set this up. Now they also include this little bracket and 2 little hex bolts. I'm using a 2.5mm Allen wrench, and this is where this little tab thing goes, and we're gonna go ahead and install it on here. There's 2 holes right there, and it's gonna go in like this. Okay, so now that we have this bracket installed, we're gonna install this exactly the way, the exact orientation that we took it out. So the tab closes down, it doesn't close up. So we're gonna go ahead and just slide it in, and then it locks into place, okay? And that's really it. Now this is ready to go inside the car. And again, we're gonna go ahead and start with this first. All right, so go ahead, grab your 10mm. We're gonna go ahead and reuse the stock mounting hardware for right here. And this is gonna be the orientation that the bracket goes in. And you're just gonna go ahead and bolt it on. You wanna make sure that when you install this, that it's completely squared up to the car, because you can install it crooked and you don't want it to be crooked. You just want it to be as straight to the hard line as possible. Next, you're gonna go ahead, take your flex fuel sensor, and you can go ahead and hook it up to this hard line. It's gonna click in just like that. Now it shouldn't be able, you should hear it click in. If it didn't click in, it's probably not seated all the way, but go ahead and hold one end of the fuel line and pull to make sure that it's completely seated in there. And as you can see, it's not gonna go anywhere. So next, take one of your PRL provided 10mm bolts and go ahead and put it to the mount. All right, I'm gonna zap these in just to make my life easier. Now, take your stock fuel line and click it into place. There you go. You heard the audible click, and then click this into place. And that's it. Once you're in there, it's not gonna go nowhere. All right, next, all that's left to do is just install the harness. Okay, so we finished installing the flex fuel sensor last night. I had to call it a night and pick it up again the next day. That's why I'm in different clothing. But now that we finished installing the flex fuel sensor and the fuel line, all that's really left to do is just installing the wiring harness. The wiring harness is pretty straightforward. There's 4 total connectors. There's one that connects to the flex fuel sensor itself. there's two connectors that kind of jumper through the secondary O2 sensor, and that's where the power for the flex fuel sensor is gonna come from, and you get a ground for that. And then we have this that connects to the engine coolant temp sensor number 2. It's towards the bottom where the radiator's at, and it's pretty easy to get to from the top of the engine bay. You don't have to go underneath and take anything apart. I can reach my hand down there pretty easily, and I think I have relatively bigger hands than most people. So it's pretty easy. Now, this is what's gonna give you the flex fuel ability. It's going to be able to be used for ECU tuning. So that way, when you get a flex fuel tune, your ECU can adjust for the different types of ethanol content. So if you don't want flex fuel ability, you don't have to use this. PRL said that you can just zip tie it away if you want to, but if you want flex fuel ability, then yeah, you're gonna want to use this. And obviously if it's there, go ahead and use it, because then you would have to make sure that you're at the correct ethanol content for whatever tune you're running at all times. You wouldn't be able to, you wouldn't be able to put different types of ethanol in it, and you'd have to constantly flash your ECU back and forth if you're going between 93 and E85 and anything in between. So it just makes sense to go ahead and use it. You're not gonna be hurting anything. But if you do use it, again, you're gonna need a Ktuner or Hondata. Hondata is pretty straightforward with their off-the-shelf map. You just select flex fuel and everything's already pre-selected for you. Ktuner is a little bit more complicated. You kind of have to go into the settings and specifically enable flex fuel if it doesn't already have a flex fuel map in it. I'm still messing with Ktuner a little bit, but when I uploaded one of their off-the-shelf maps, I had to actually go in there and enable flex fuel. Otherwise, you're gonna get some check engine lights, and the codes are gonna tell you that your engine coolant temp sensor number 2 is not working. And that's because it's disconnected, and you replace it with this connector. So, yeah, let's go ahead and install the wiring harness. Okay, so there's only one gray plug in the wiring harness, and this is gonna be the plug that connects directly to the flex fuel sensor. So once you get that plugged in, we're gonna move over to right here, this part of the engine bay, and we're gonna start messing with the secondary O2 sensor. And after that, we go down to the bottom and install the ECT2 sensor. Okay, so here we have the secondary O2 sensor. You're just gonna go ahead, unplug it right here. And you're gonna do, obviously, female to male. And then, again, female to male. All right, wrong orientation. And now, all you gotta do is connect this ground. For this ground, I'm using this bolt right here that's on the engine bay. And that seemed to be what works best for me. All you gotta do is just undo it. It's a 10mm bolt. Go ahead and put your ground in, and then bolt it down, and you're completely done with that part of the wiring harness. Okay, so you have some kind of an idea of where this connector is gonna go. So as you can tell where I'm orientated in the engine bay, I'm gonna start looking down, and there's this connector right there, and right there. That's the connector that you need to unplug from the radiator and then plug in to the harness. So when you finish installing all the lines and you're cycling the power to build pressure in the lines, make sure that you step out of the car or have somebody with you inspecting the lines, make sure nothing is leaking. You don't want a fuel leak in your engine bay of any kind. You don't want anything to catch on fire. It'll be a really bad day. So make sure you inspect before you actually turn on the engine itself. Once you've made sure that there's nothing leaking with just cycling the battery, go ahead, turn the car on, step back outside, or have somebody inspecting to make sure there's no actual leaks going on, you know, wiggle the lines a little bit, make sure they're fully seated, so that way nothing happens while you're driving. Again, I don't want you guys to have a bad day. Just take the extra steps to make sure that you're doing everything as safely as possible. So just wanted to make that clear. All right, guys, so now that we finished installing the sensor, all that's left to do is just make sure that the Wi-Fi portion of it works. And for this, all you have to do is just turn the battery on in the car. You might have to battle with your Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, whatever it is that you use, because as you know, when you have Apple CarPlay, it uses Wi-Fi. So there's that. Now, once you have it selected, you probably have a QR code that is taking you through the setup guide. There's two, one that has you connect to this actual sensor itself, and then another one that's going to take you through the setup guide. It'll open up your web browser so you can set it up there. So let's go ahead, and I'm gonna go ahead and scan one of the QR codes, and well, not the first one. I'm gonna scan the second one since I'm already connected. It's gonna take me to Safari, and as you can see from here, I'll probably put it right there. I'm already reading my ethanol content, which is E29. Now, what's cool about this is from this page, you just tap the 3 lines above and then go to the basic config changes. And once you go there, you can change the Wi-Fi password, which by default is gonna be PRL Army ! And you have the option to do a couple things. So this live ETHSSID is gonna make it to where your ethanol content is displayed on the Wi-Fi name. So as the ethanol content changes, the Wi-Fi name is also gonna change, which is a really cool feature. You don't even have to connect to it. You can just go to your Wi-Fi networks and see PRL sensor says E29 or E35. You don't have to connect, and you don't have to come to this page every single time. You can just go to the Wi-Fi networks, which is really cool. And that's pretty much it, guys. There's a video that PRL did that goes into way more detail. In case you want to do that, I'll link it down below as far as how to use the app. But it works. It's very convenient. It's very nice to have. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe so you can see my future videos. One of my next ones is gonna be upgrading this intake, so make sure you don't miss that one. Any questions, leave it down in the comment section below. And yeah, thanks for always coming back, guys. Again, everything that I used in this video that I showed you is gonna be linked down in the description box below. Some of them are affiliate links that help me continue to do this kind of stuff for you guys. So please use my affiliate links if you can. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. Whoa, 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 whoa. I know you weren't just about to leave. Why don't you go ahead and check out one of my previous videos right here, so that way you can keep the content rolling, continue supporting the channel. So yeah, go ahead, click it. All right.